NEBOSH International General Certificate in Occupational Health and Safety Unit IG2 Element 8, General Workplace Issues. Identify the main welfare requirements in any workplace. Drinking water. Sanitary conveniences. Washing facilities. Changing rooms. Accommodation. Resting and eating facilities. Identify the protective measures to be used for working in conditions of extreme heat. Providing good workplace ventilation such as air conditioning or fans to circulate air which has a cooling effect. Insulating heat sources by lagging hot pipes. Shielding heat sources to control radiant heat and prevent contact burns. Providing cool refuges where workers can escape the heat. Providing easy access to drinking water. Providing frequent breaks and job rotation. Providing appropriate clothing that allows the worker to sweat freely. What are the health and safety effects of working in a hot environment? Dehydration. Muscle cramps. Heat stress. Heat exhaustion. Heat stroke. What are the main risks using ladders? Workers falling from a height. Falling off the ladder. Ladder toppling sideways. Ladder base slipping out from the wall. Objects falling from height. Contact with live overheads. Explain the safety precautions for using ladders. Not sitting or handling near live overheads. Sitting on a solid, flat base so that the feet do not sink into the ground. Weight should only be supported on the stiles. Never on the rungs. Angling the ladder ideally at 75 degrees to the horizontal or at a ratio of 1:4, 1 out to 4 up, distance away from the wall to height. Resting the top of the ladder against a solid support. Ideally, securing the ladder at the top. If this is not possible, then attaching guy ropes and securing them to firm supports. If this is not possible, ensuring that the ladder is footed by someone standing on the bottom rung. Extending the top of the ladder far enough above the level of the working position or the platform onto which it provides access to provide a safe handhold. This should be at least 1 meter or 5 rungs if used as a means of access. The stepping off point should be safe and clear. Making sure that only one person climbs on the ladder at any one time. Not carrying anything in the hands while climbing, so that both hands are free to grasp the stiles. Maintaining 3 points of contact while working. Not painting wooden ladders as this can hide defects such as rot. What are the safety precautions for the use of stepladders? Carry out a daily check of the stepladder before use. Always ensure that the ladder is fully open. Make sure that the locking devices are in place. Only use on firm, level ground which is not slippery. Do not work off the top 2 steps, or the top 3 steps for swing back, double-sided stepladders, unless there is a safe handhold on the steps. Avoid overreaching. Avoid side-on working. Explain scaffolding basic components. Standards. Ledgers. Transoms. Bracing. Base plates. Sole boards. Work platform. Guardrails. Toe boards. Explain factors that might cause the collapse of an independent tied scaffold. Work platform overloaded. Scaffold built on soft ground without use of adequate sole boards. Scaffold not tied adequately to the building. Insufficient bracing incorporated into the scaffold. Standards not upright. Standards bent, buckled or heavily corroded. High winds. Incorrect couplers used to joint tubes together. Scaffold struck by mobile plant. Scaffold erected by incompetent workers. Scaffold not inspected prior to use. Explain safety precautions for safe use of mobile tower scaffolds. The guardrail must be fitted to the work platform. The tower must not be overloaded. The wheels should be locked when the tower is in use. The tower must be sited on firm, level ground. People and materials should not remain on the tower when it is moved. Care should be taken to avoid overheads when the tower is moved. Outriggers should be used where necessary to ensure stability. People should not climb up the outside of the tower. The tower must be built by trained. The tower must not exceed the relevant base to height ratio. The tower must be inspected prior to use and routinely during use. Explain confined spaces specified risks. Fire or explosion. Loss of consciousness or asphyxiation arising from gas, fumes, vapor or lack of oxygen. Drowning. Asphyxiation as a result of entrapment in free, flowing solid. Loss of consciousness as a result of increased body temperature. Identify the various issues that must be addressed in a safe system of work for entry into a confined space. Level of supervision. Competency requirements of the people doing the work. Communication methods to be used inside the confined space. Atmospheric testing and monitoring before and during entry. Ventilation that may be required before and during entry. Removal of residues. Isolation and lock. Off of in. Feeds and out. Feeds. Isolation and lock. Off of electrical and mechanical hazards. PPE requirements for workers inside the confined space, which may include respiratory protective equipment. Safe and quick access and egress methods. Fire prevention measures. Lighting that is suitable and safe to use in the atmosphere inside the confined space. Suitability of individuals in terms of body size and psychology. Emergency and rescue arrangements to cope with foreseeable emergencies. Identify control measures that might be used to reduce the risk of slipping and tripping in the workplace. Adequate lighting. Use of appropriate footwear with good grip. Level floor surfaces. Non-slip floor surfaces. Good drainage. Spill control. Use of designated walkways. Provision of handrails to steps and stairs. Maintenance and repair of defects. Explain factors that increase the risk of vehicle collisions. Driving too fast. Inadequate lighting. Reversing without the help of a banksman, signaler. Blind spots, such as corners and entrances. Bad weather conditions, for example rain. Obstructed visibility, for example overloaded forklift truck driving forwards. Poor design of pedestrian walkways and crossing points. Lack of vehicle maintenance, for example brake failure. Identify the unsafe practices that might cause a forklift truck to overturn. Cornering while being driven too fast. Uneven loading of the forks. Driving over potholes. Driving with the load elevated, especially cornering. Uneven tire pressures. Driving across a slope, rather than straight up. Down the full line. Excessive braking. Collisions, especially with curbs. How to control that can reduce the risk of accident from reversing vehicles. Avoidance of reversing by implementing one-way traffic systems. Segregation of pedestrians and vehicles or the provision of refuges. Selection of good vehicles so that drivers have adequate visibility. Provision of audible reversing alarms and flashing beacons. Provision of mirrors at blind spots to see approaching pedestrians. Use of high visibility clothing. Ensuring that the area is well lit. Provision of banksmen. Training for drivers and pedestrians working in the area. Explain rules for parking a vehicle. Apply the handbrake. Remove a key. Do not obstruct a traffic route. Do not obstruct a pedestrian route. Do not obstruct emergency escape routes. For a forklift truck, lower the forks and tip the mast forwards. Outline the means of separating vehicles and pedestrians. Vehicle free and pedestrian free areas, zones. Barriers to separate routes for pedestrians and vehicles. Clear surface markings to demark vehicle and pedestrian routes. Curbed pavements for outdoor roadways. Designated crossing points for pedestrians to use when crossing vehicle routes. Separate doorways and access points for pedestrians.
Please give comment and suggestions.
Thank you.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for more updates. Thank for visit our channel. See you next class.
Thank you.